Welcome all. You're listening to the MLTI podcast, Teaching with Tech.
We are your hosts, the MLTI Ambassador team at the Maine Department of Education.
We are here to support Maine educators by building a network focused on authentic voices, experiences, and technology integration.
Hello and welcome to the MLTI podcast, Teaching with Tech. My name is Joshua Schmidt, and I am a second-year MLTI Ambassador with the MLTI and Learning Through Technology teams here at the Maine Department of Education. 2 years ago, I came across the listing of this 2-year position, and even after I applied, I wasn't sure exactly what to expect. But I can tell you it was one of the best professional decisions I've ever made. I've spent the last 2 years working with a phenomenal team of educators who have pushed me to continue growing and improving each and every day. The projects I've been able to work on have been exciting, fulfilling, and purposeful, and I am so grateful to have worked with such a great group of people, many of which you'll hear from today. But like the other 4 ambassadors in my group, my time on the team is ending, and we are preparing for 5 new voices to join us. Last year, we recorded an episode talking about our experiences on this team to help others who were thinking of applying. Today is a spiritual successor to that episode, hoping to examine even deeper about what we do in this role, but also why we've made the growth that we have. If you're one of the people who's interested in learning more, we will link all of the information for this position in the show notes, descriptions, frequently asked questions, and of course, the job application itself. But for the rest of today, we will hear from the MLTI Ambassador team, voices from the field that we've worked with this year, and our Ambassador Program Facilitator, Jonathan R. Werner. I was very nervous to apply because this being a remote job, I thought it would be very isolating, that I would be by myself at my computer all day, and then once in a while I'd get to go out and work with teachers at schools. And it's kind of flipped entirely on its head, where the job is incredibly social.
I think the idea of working on this remote team and how, we do see each other in person, but it's not as much as like if you're going to school every day, and we are so close. We've gotten to know one another, and just that atmosphere has, I think, driven some of the work, and I think it leads to the collaboration and the way that we collaborate.
I've always known how to make presentations, but not at a professional type level that I would consider more in line with what I do now. I've learned just so much, and one thing I absolutely love about this team is that if there's something I want to know, I can go to the team and someone will be willing to show me and teach me.
I have had the incredible opportunity to collaborate with the MLTI team on various projects. And for all of those projects, I got full support from my teammates. And each project not only deepened my understanding of technology, but it also enhanced my other skills, such as communication, collaboration, and coordination.
I've always been in an environment where, you kind of protect your own things that you've created. And, the discussion is, do they belong to me or do they belong to the district where I work? And now the question is, who needs it and who wants it? And if I have it, you can have it. And so I feel very supported by the team in the creation of material for my work.
The other thing is that it's so collaborative, like on a next level that I have never experienced. No one takes the ownership for things. You work together, you share, you do it as a team, you do it for a common purpose, you respect each other.
The other thing that I didn't expect to learn was more about myself as a I'm going to say as a learner, how I learn, how I think, which, I thought I knew, but then all of a sudden you've got 2 years where you're working with a very functional team and you're getting able to do all these neat things. And it's just, I learned a lot about myself and I didn't expect that.
It's just such a welcoming environment and a healthy environment. And although I knew some of that, it just really surprised me how deeply ingrained that is in the team members. And there's no competition at all. It's just about a team mentality and supporting teachers and students on a different level.
I have been really excited and surprised, not only by the collaborative nature, but the opportunity to learn from all the other ambassadors and how that has increased my knowledge and being able to really dive deep into topics that I might not have even thought about learning about. So like augmented reality or increasing my knowledge in podcasting in a different level, like on the back end of it as opposed to the front end of it. So having that opportunity to work with the team and learn from them and improve my skills has been really exciting and enabled me to explore and learn new tech and figure out how then it can benefit teachers and students.
I'm Kathy Potter, the tech integrator at Falmouth Middle School in the Falmouth School Department. And I worked with the MLTI Ambassadors. I worked with Gwyneth and Jonathan closely to plan and present a tech night around how parents can help their students find a healthy balance in their life with technology outside of school. And as a follow-up to that presentation, our staff was also interested in learning more about the digital life balance. So we're going to have Jonathan and Gwyneth come to a staff meeting and work with our teachers around trying to find a nice, healthy balance of using technology for good and trying to avoid some of the addictive behaviors.
I don't typically harbor overconfidence, but I was caught off guard by the humbling realization that I was no longer the exclusive tech authority I'd imagined I was. Being surrounded by colleagues who could teach me how to improve my own skills was as surprising as it was refreshing, and I look forward to the continued mutual exchange of professional knowledge with this team.
I am Carrie Brown. I'm the school-based community health navigator, and I'm employed by St. Croix Family Health Center, and I work in the Princeton School in Princeton, Maine. Donna Netzer is our ambassador. She is here at least a couple of days a week, and I know she's interacting with different classes and teachers and all around different things that need to happen in the school. I think a lot of our staff, they are so strong in everything they do, and there might be things that just might not know how to ask, how to have help. And I think just having someone here in the schools every week for that go-to person, or even with kids for a go-to person every week, if there's something they just can't quite figure out with technology, it's a very helpful position.
The thing that surprised me the most was just how much inequity exists between schools and school districts in the state of Maine. And I learned that through engaging with colleagues in discussions with schools, both virtually and in person, from north to south and east to west, and how impressed I was with what some of our fellow educators are doing with such little resources, financial or technology-wise. It's really impressive, but there's a very stark difference between districts within our state, and it amplifies how important our work is to provide accessibility.
I'm Tim Reynolds. I'm the Executive Director of the Washington County Consortium, and I have the responsibility of providing or bring in professional development for all of our educators in the county. We have this MLTI series we call Lunch and Learn, and about once every 4 to 5 weeks, MLTI will have a session that will broadcast out to all of our educators and also record that for later on. Donna Netzer, our Down East ambassador, has put tech talks in place for our educators, little small tidbits of opportunities to talk about technology in individual classrooms or with individual educators and teachers. We continue to have conversations about how best to serve the educators in Down East Maine, give them the tools they need to have dialogue back in their school about digital citizenship and how that could look and how it benefits the entire school, for everybody to understand and follow a plan that keeps everyone fully engaged in their academics.
This year, we have worked with MLTI ambassadors a lot in a lot of different capacities. At the school, we've had our MLTI ambassador come and do workshops once a month with our staff during our staff meeting for half an hour, just doing snapshots of technology that we have in our school and how we could use it. The MLTI ambassadors worked with our tech leaders in our school, encouraging our kids to become technology leaders from 3rd grade to 8th grade and teaching them how to use tech and how to lead other kids in that effort as well. We've been able to do those things seamlessly because we have Donna Netzer as a teacher here who is currently serving as an MLTI ambassador for 2 years. I've attended the principal MLTI meetings that are held once a month for Washington County principals, so that's been a great resource. And we've had a wellness day at our school that was hosted by MLTI ambassadors. And we've had slam shows and a tech day for our kids through MLTI.
This environment, this job, this team is a team of teachers who know what maybe has been lacking in their past as far as teaching or the environment or the respective teachers, and create a healthy environment.
That culture on our team is just amazing.
Last year, I had gotten sick for our 2 first in-person events and had missed them. So one day I went to Augusta to see the team for in-person for the first time. And it was a big moment, but it also didn't really feel like a big moment because we had been working so closely together for basically every day up to that point. And it was such a unique thing where I love our in-person events together and at schools, and I always look forward to them, but it's not like I feel like I'm working alone ever.
I did not expect to find such an amazing, collaborative, and supportive team of educators in the ambassador group. As a music teacher or allied arts teacher, it's really challenging to collaborate with other content area teachers in the school building for so many reasons. But those barriers don't exist on this team. The playing field is level, and we all look to each other to learn from each other, bounce ideas, build professional development, and it's really been such a wonderful feeling to be a part of this team, and it's something I will certainly miss when I move on.
It's something that's actually really gonna miss, like when we leave this job, that the idea that purposeful collaboration and teamwork is the norm and it's the expectation. And I really hope that every job I have after this has that same expectation. That would be awesome. So we are here with Jonathan Werner, who is the MLTI program facilitator. He's also been a MLTI ambassador for 2 years before joining this role. We got him on the podcast a little bit earlier, and he did such a great job. We couldn't wait to get him back. So Jonathan, welcome back to the podcast. Tell us how you got started with the ambassador program originally.
When I saw the ambassador position posted, I felt like someone had created my dream job because I was constantly seeing a disconnect with the technology that was available as compared to how it was being utilized. And I was familiar with the SAMR model. I knew there were ways that tech could be substituted, augmenting, modifying, or redefining education. And I was seeing not very much redefining happening. So for someone to invite me to offer professional development to help people go from having tech in their classrooms to using tech well in their classrooms was just incredible.
You have a unique view when it comes to this team as someone who joined in the first group of ambassadors and now has the chance to shape how the team will build going forward. Talk us through that shift of where the program started and where it is now.
So I think the shift that took place at the department was the sense that this is not going to be simply a device provision program anymore. It's going to be an education changing program. And that to me is probably the core of everything else that's happened since then. as you said, Josh, I was in the first class of ambassadors. The growth over the first 2 years was from no idea what we're doing, no idea sort of what the best utilization of the program was, but boy, were we going to try to be as useful as we could be, to wow, there's a lot of work for us to do, and we need to hold back the floodgates. And that's a kind of great problem to have. But I think in year one, it was really trying to figure out in a post-COVID era, as schools were just not ready to let people in yet, it made sense to find ways to support them fully remotely. And part of the time was spent delivering content asynchronously remotely. Part of the time was spent delivering it synchronously remotely. So that shift to having the ability to see it on the ground, and that trickle down effect that I would say is just amazing to watch, where you see a teacher who really clearly uncomfortable with something, they're not at all in their zone, and you start to introduce the tool, and all of us have seen this in various ways. By the end of that session, the end of that day, they're taking control. They're saying, all right, I got this.
Simply by the nature of getting a little further past the pandemic has given us more options on how to support schools. Even in my first year, the majority of our work was some version of remote. And while we haven't removed that as an option, having more in-person opportunities has provided us more chances to support schools and teachers in unique ways.
We had an ambassador recently who switched places midday with the teacher, 2 sessions where the teacher was watching, sort of cautiously figuring out how to do podcasting, and then realizing that they could swap at that point, and the teacher could teach with the assistance of the ambassador over the course of a single day. That's where you just see incredibly gratifying growth, and you leave with students having a different experience in their classroom than before you arrived. Now, Josh, is it like that every time? No, unfortunately. Of course, there are times when it's a little more mundane or a little less dramatic, but there are enough of those moments that all of us have had that are so clearly transformative that it's become the lifeblood of the program.
It's also one of the challenges in creating an episode like this. Questions that may seem simple, like what is a normal day like, is challenging to answer because the goal of this job is to evolve as quickly as we can to respond to needs in schools. Something you actually brought up before we started recording was using an example of a resource like Canva, which is incredibly popular in schools right now. On our team, we don't teach Canva. We might be teaching graphic design plus computational thinking, or maybe a school contacts us and they have experience in a specific resource and they want some professional development on how to ramp that resource up and make it even better.
One of the things that we experienced recently that echoes that exact pattern is AI is accelerating at such a pace that it would be useless for us to teach the specifics of a particular tool. So if I hearken back to the good old days where Google was the fastest changing thing we had, and I would teach something, and then, a couple months later, the buttons would look different or the interaction would be different. With AI, the shift is so rapid and so intense that we can only really teach the concept and sort of the skill set. And I think it's a great echo of the kind of teaching we need to be doing, in the sense that if we are going to teach kids historical fact, or we're going to teach them purely buckets of information and trying to fill those, they have holes in them that are going to empty those buckets far faster than we can fill them. So if we're teaching our teachers the concept of what AI can make you way more efficient, here are some ways that's going to work today. Some of these tools may not be available tomorrow. They may have completely changed, but the message is look to AI to make you more efficient. That kind of pivoting on our part and the ability to recognize the importance of the skill set, but not the particular tool. I will be honest and say at first I was like, why am I not teaching a tool? It feels like that's the most important thing to do. And at times you can still support work by teaching a tool as an exemplar. But I think AI has amplified the pace so much that for us to remain relevant, the only way to do that is for us to approach it as a problem set that we are employing skills to address, and not particular hammers or nails or pliers that are going to solve the specific problem that arises.
As part of this episode, we asked the ambassadors what the most surprising part of the job has been for them. So I'll ask you, is there a moment or experience that has been particularly surprising to you?
I don't know that I could rate my most surprising moment, but I'm going to give you 3 snapshots that have been particular surprises to me. The first one is that this state has an unbelievable diversity of resources that I had no concept. And being from Southern Maine, Portland area, I understood the landscape across the state to echo what our landscape is socioeconomically, in terms of the support that's available, the depth of resources. And my discovery is that that is a complete fallacy, that we have an incredible amount of work to do to equalize people's access to even very basic supports in some cases, but certainly to the concept of what a tech integrator might do to change a practice in a district. What then I would pair with that surprise is how unbelievably adaptive are the people who have different resources available to them. I just came back from the county where I can't say enough about the extraordinary quality of the teaching and learning that happens in this district and the degree to which these kids are gifted with such talented teachers who make lemonade from lemons. And not only that, find ways to transform their kids' experiences by bringing to bear resources that you can't imagine where they're getting them, where they're getting the energy to make these things happen, that really just speak to how central the role of a teacher is in giving kids what they deserve. So my enormous surprise and delight is that despite those differences, despite those disparities, there are ways to make up the differences that are available to us. And I think our mission increasingly has been and must be to close those gaps and to give people the access to what's already out there as support. Perhaps my greatest surprise is that I love this work in a way that I was worried I would be too distant from students to love it. And what I've discovered is that as I can see kids' experiences transformed by the work I'm doing with their teachers, that is enough. I'd shared with our team the other day this kind of extraordinary experience I had with a former student who came up to me and in one of those sort of magical moments told me about an impact I had on him that I had no idea I had had. And I thought, that is the thing that I'm never going to get again. And then the next day, a teacher did the exact same thing and said, had we not had that conversation, I would not be doing this. And it's because of you that it happened. And I thought, that is enough. That is so exciting to me and so rewarding to be able to see my work support the ambassadors support the teachers support the students, that I have an enormous amount of optimism that we can keep this going and growing in a way that has the opportunity to be utterly transformative to the way we teach and learn in Maine.
What a great story. It can feel like those moments happen most often when they're organic. You know, we respond to a need in a school or a district, and we're able to do that because the team is flexible and quick to evolve. So as we look forward and we think about the ways that the team has already evolved, where do you see this progress going next? What types of evolutions do you see as longest lasting?
I think phase 1 of the ambassador program was about discovering need and trying to fill those needs. Phase 2 was trying to figure out which needs we could meet that had the greatest impact and provide as much valuable content as we could in those limited areas. Phase 3 was, oh my goodness, what are we going to do with the huge range of questions we're getting, and figure out how to maximize the benefit of the time we spent so that the most students are benefiting from the work we're doing. Phase 4, I think, is learning from and where we're headed from here is learning from phases 1, 2, and 3 that it isn't about trying to anticipate the massive impact, but instead observing the trends that our work can respond to. And as an example that we're headed into, returning to the subject of AI, I think what we're recognizing is we have got to advocate for what AI is capable of doing and what it can support, and figure out the ways in which we're going to get that lesson out there, but without proselytizing, without offering any kind of judgment on people who are concerned about it, understandably and rightfully concerned, giving them a neutral approach and an entry point that then they can walk away with whatever it is that's transformed for them as a result of the experience.
So if someone was interested in this position and they wanted to learn more, what steps would you recommend for them to take?
First thing I would have them do is reach out to me. I would be delighted to talk to anyone who's excited about this work or has questions about it. If you know a current ambassador and would like to reach out to them, we're hoping that we will be talking to lots of people who have had contact with ambassadors. We'd be delighted to talk, any of us, about what your experiences were like, and delighted to talk about what our experiences were like that might inform what your experience would be like. We'll link in the show notes some of the resources we've provided that describe the outline of the work. And from that, you can get a pretty strong sense of how you would spend your time, how you would be expected to interact with the other ambassadors, with the understanding that perhaps the most important skill is your ability to evolve with us and your willingness to do that. That if you are entering this with an excitement about what's next and what's next after that, you are exactly what we are craving to join the team as people who will help us look ahead to what the next demand is going to be, anticipate that, and be ready to respond to it as soon as it emerges.
Jonathan, thank you as always for your time, and we will definitely talk more soon.
Thanks, Josh.
The recent presentation of the MLTI Winter Classic Virtual Student Conference was the culmination of months of work by our entire team. Most people don't know the extent of the obstacles that repeatedly tried to derail the game from its earliest conceptual stages. Thanks to the flexible leadership of Emma, John, and Jonathan, the game evolved, and we were able to release an event on time that exceeded everyone's expectations. Knowing I was able to perform my role in a project that reached schools in every county across the state has definitely been a highlight of my first year as an ambassador.
As far as a transformative moment, I would say I was lucky enough to jump on the AI train early last year in my first year. And I get the privilege every time I do a session of like, this is something that's going to make my life easier. This is something that is going to work for me. It's something, they might not have been sure of it beforehand. And now with the presentations and the curated resources and things like that, it's something that they can use.
Working remotely this year with Washington County made me realize that there's a whole world of opportunity for supporting more rural and remote schools that may not have the same resources and opportunities as we do in southern Maine and more populated areas of the state. In collaborating with Donna, I zoomed into a school while she facilitated the classroom in person to teach the students about video editing. So these students had an opportunity to learn a skill that they may not have otherwise. So it makes me wonder, how could we do that even more to provide students with guest lessons, activities, especially around the arts and technology, where teaching positions are not always easily filled.
My name's Tara Jensen, and I'm from East Range 2 School in Topsfield, Maine. And in order for me to work with the ambassador, we actually were able to contact over email and kind of coordinate just a meet and greet. We were able to discuss how many kids and what kind of technology we had, and what kind of things we would like to see for the future of the school. We were really able to use that technology not just for the students, but we were able to use that for the teaching staff as well. The students were getting more and more excited because we got to use it for different academics, math, science, social studies, and our language arts. We were also able to help them to explore other ways of expressing themselves, whether it was through Canva or through any of the 3D printing softwares. So this really was able to give the students and even the staff just a whole nother way of looking at academics.
I have principals often talking to me about the negative side of technology in the classroom, most of that being in the hands of students who are holding cell phones. So, and we've had lots of conversations, and MLTI and Donna and I have had conversations about that as well. And hopefully through digital citizenship, we can help schools remedy that problem.
Early this year, as a second-year ambassador, it was really important for us to spread the same message that our second-year ambassadors did, which was that your opinion is just as valued as anybody else on this team. And so that professional development early in the year, our number one goal was, how do we pair with someone who's in their first year to show them exactly what this team is about, but also gain their expertise. Like, I had done a year of podcasting professional development, and then I paired with G, and all of a sudden it became substantially better than anything I had done before. And I hope that a new ambassador next year pairs with her again, and it ramps it up even more.
So I think the things that I found have been most impactful is that a lot of our PD allows for the development of skills. So for example, when Josh and I presented podcasting at Actum and Yuhan and I did green screening, we gave them time to explore and learn. And then right after those sessions, I was contacted saying, this is something I really want to put in my classroom. Can you help me do this? Green screening, they were on fire in the session, and just the excitement and then the wealth of possibilities that they saw was transformative, not just for me, but to see them have that light bulb moment to say, oh my gosh, this is something that I can really do in my classroom that's not going to add a lot to it, not make it more difficult for me, and allow me to engage my students in a new way or a different way so that they are invested in the learning or the project too.
I had presented and done some, minor things. But we all kind of worked together to say, what is the best presentation and how do we do this? And so that's something that, it was a cool experience to learn those things.
So a transformative moment for me was when I really first grasped the standard that is set for our professional development. And the level of the professional development that we deliver is so much higher than I had ever experienced. As someone who in the past has delivered professional development, I was taken aback by just how high the quality of professional development is. It's through the roof. And so that really set the tone for me. And then also in some early learnings in the fall, that not only is the tech side of our professional development such a high quality, but it's as much about how you deliver the professional development as it is the content of the session to begin with. And that it really can make the difference between whether or not teachers in the field can grasp or are willing to sit in and hear what we have to say. They're far more likely to receive what we have to say if we design the professional development well, and then the content kind of comes along with it.
I'm a technology literacy teacher at Freeport Middle School. I have to say my ambassador has been a lifesaver because I did get a grant for drones this year to introduce them to my kids, and I was super excited about it. And then all of a sudden I got them and I was like panicky a little bit because it was a lot, it was a learning curve, and I was excited about doing it, but I just kind of got stuck. And my ambassador actually came and helped me through that little sticking point, and we came up with I already had ideas, but just how to get them into the kids' hands and introduce them to the software and the simulated environment they'd be working in. So I have to say my experience with the ambassador really helped me on so many levels.
Reflecting on my 2-year experience, I realized all the projects have been transformative. For example, integrating green screen into classrooms, I offered this presentation at the student conference. After the presentation, one student came to me and said he could go back to school to make a news report immediately. I was so happy to hear that. So you see, the knowledge and the skills I acquired are not just advancements in my own personal growth. They are tools that I'm eager to go back to my school to share. So as I prepare to return, I'm excited about the potential to further enrich my students' learning experiences with these new insights and perspectives.
My transformative moment actually had nothing to do with this job itself. It was after going to a school and delivering a professional development. I felt like it went pretty well. I still was being a little tough on myself. I started receiving emails from people in my sessions, which were, "Hey, Josh, I don't know if you can answer this, but I don't know who to ask." And I started becoming like this safe person to ask questions to. And that was such a big moment for me. And I've really started looking at the job in that context. Like, we're not selling anything when we work at schools. The only thing we're selling is future contact with our team. And if we can be a safe connection from somebody in a school system who's looking for support, whether it's from the department or from somewhere else, that's awesome. Just knowing that that person may not have had anybody else they knew they could ask, and they reach out to you, and maybe you don't know the answer, but you can at least get them moving in the right direction. That was such a game changer for me, and something I've really latched onto, in my second year.
The work that I've done this year with students has been amazing in the area of follow-up. So I have worked with a student in Western Maine on podcasting, and I will be not surprised to start listening to his weekly podcast very soon. And it all came from working with the librarian who got a grant for podcasting equipment, but wasn't sure what to do with it. And then when we came in for a professional development session in their school, this kid was just enthralled with the possibility of sharing his knowledge about cars. And I mean, when he started talking to me, I only understood every other word, but that gave him some clarification on what he needed to do in his podcast. And he has already made appointments with the librarian to be there every Wednesday from now to the end of the school year to record his latest podcast episode.
I'm really looking forward to doing some more projects and working with my ambassador and getting some more ideas, because, I do think that I got really stuck there. And I think as all of us kind of work in a vacuum sometimes. And so it's nice to have someone to bounce ideas off of, and someone say, yeah, that sounds like a great idea, or maybe that's not such a good idea, or maybe you could do it this way, and I think it's important to have people like that around you, and that you can call and say, hey, what do you think? Thanks for talking to me about it, because I've been making glowing comments to everyone about my ambassador experience and my experience with MLTI this year.
I thought this was a really positive experience, and I would definitely work with MLTI ambassadors in the future on projects, because not only did it help me further my professional development, and I'm able to then work with my staff and my students, but also I learned about some really great resources. So I would definitely work with MLTI ambassadors again.
The journey has been invaluable for me, and the skills I have gained are highly transferable. They will serve as a foundation for fostering a more creative and collaborative learning environment at Noble High School, where I came from. I'm so looking forward to seeing how these experiences will benefit my students in the coming year and beyond.
It's a privilege to help teachers, knowing that they have such a tough job and giving them the tools that they need.
Thank you so much to everyone who joined us today. And once again, if you're someone who wants to learn more about the MLTI ambassador position, or is thinking of applying for the 2024 through 2026 positions on the team, You can find descriptions, frequently asked questions, and the job application in the show notes. Jonathan also mentioned reaching out to him directly or asking the MLTI ambassadors about their experience. Those are all great ideas to get a clear image of what this job is. All of our contact info is in the show notes, but if you're ever looking for high-quality professional development or support, reach out to the MLTI or Learning Through Technology teams here at the Maine Department of Education by emailing us at doe-ltt@maine.gov. And to close today's episode, I actually have a funny story about my first job. Did you know that I used to be a lumberjack before I got fired? They gave me the axe. Class dismissed.